Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ealing Road podcast, where on today's show, we're going to be going over the Villa game. We're going to be going over the Bournemouth game. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. Actually, no, it's just gone afternoon. We're recording this Wednesday morning. So we've got a nice bumper episode to get into. Dan, how you doing, mate?
All good. In the words of Keith Andrews, it was scrappy and it was ugly, but we loved it.
Craig, how are we?
I'm very good. After two back-to-back wins and two clean sheets, you can't really ask for much more, can you?
No, you can't. We'll get on to that. It's in Tweet of the Week. But just before we do, remember to drop a comment down below with your thoughts around those two games and your thoughts ahead of the Sunderland matches. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Follow us on the socials at the Ealing Road on Twitter, at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. Tweet of the Week. Quite a few to choose from this week. I've grabbed one relating to what you just said, Craig, two back-to-back clean sheets. There's Jack Brace on Twitter saying, last season it took Brentford 6 months and 31 matches in all competitions to register back-to-back clean sheets. Under Andrews, it's taken 3 games, Craig. Just the 3 games.
3 games. And I can't imagine very many people saw us keeping a clean sheet against Aston Villa on the weekend. No. And especially going down to Bournemouth midweek for a cup game with a much changed side. Again, surprising for us to keep clean sheets, especially after last season. We know how that went. But he seems to have got us so defensively solid. I think, Dan, you pointed out a couple of stats, didn't you, in the chat? We've faced like 30-odd shots in the last 2 games and not conceded. He's got us solid. And, you know, what's the saying? Attacks will win you games, defenses will win you leagues. So we're going to win a lot, mate.
But I took another tweet from Simply AFCB as a Bournemouth account on Twitter. It said, fair play to Brentford. They've completely sussed out our style of play here. Knew how to press us, knew how to defend against us, clinical as well. Only a competition, but they've done well today. Dan, how impressed were you yesterday?
I was really impressed. And I know there was a lot of clamour in the build-up to include the likes of Donovan and Konak, but I think Keith Andrews did the right thing. I think he made changes while still making sure that there was a senior team on the pitch. There was not a single player out there who hasn't got experience at playing at a high level. And I think that allowed us to still play more as a team and still play in a more disciplined way and to get the result. And the fact that he did include all the big guns on the bench and use them to see the game out, I don't think necessarily that's something Thomas Frank would have done. And I think probably what's better for the likes of Konak and Donovan are to go out on loan, to get regular game time somewhere and to come back hopefully ready to compete in the Premier League, which is obviously very difficult for players of their experience. So I was really, really impressed. And I think over the 3 games, Keith Andrews has shown that he can adapt. He's shown that he will change a formation if necessary. I think going to a back 5, knowing that you're making those changes, just made us a little bit more solid, ensured that we didn't make the same mistakes as we did against Forest. And I think there's really positive signs that he's learning really quickly. And we've seen that in the last 2 games.
I love how the narrative on social media with some of the accounts that appear on Tweet of the Week quite frequently, how it can just change after a couple of games. Because I remember post Forest, I've just in the running order, I've just got bedwetters post Forest, because there were many people kind of screaming about the results, screaming about the performance. And granted, we were shit against Forest. We really were. But it's taken 2 games against Villa and Bournemouth, who, you know, teams that were up there last season, for the narrative to completely flip. And I've even seen a tweet from someone that's saying Keith Andrews is going to get us Europe in the next 2 seasons. So the script has completely flipped. And I'm here for it, to be fair. I really am. Let's chat about some transfer bits before we get into some Bournemouth analysis. Maximilian Beer links from, I hope I'm saying that right. Beer? What are we going for there?
I'd say Bayer, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
Beer, don't they? So let's go for that one. You know,
yeah, we'll go beer. Germans like beer, so we'll go beer. But Maximilian Beer from Dortmund, he's 22 years old. There were reports that we are interested. I think it was Sky Sports reporting that yesterday. I think it was Lyle Thomas. And supposedly that would open the door for Wissa to leave. Wissa not included in the squad again yesterday. What do we know about him, if anything? And are we keen on this simply because we want to get Wissa out the door to either of you?
Well, I think I read he's not keen on coming, is he? He's not keen on coming, and I don't think Dortmund really want to sell. And I know we have been after him for a few years. and his numbers aren't at the level that, perhaps they could be in the future. But that's very much the profile of player that we've been going for, someone who can grow into the role. And we'll talk again later about how the average age of our squad is very, very young. And I think he would be good, but I'm just not convinced it would happen. I saw a link this morning to Chuck Vitazzi at Lyon in France.
Yeah, so
he does have better numbers. I think he is slightly older. I think he may be more of a player that could come in and make an immediate impact now. I hope it gets resolved. I hope Wissa moves on, and I hope we do bring someone in, but we're going to run out of time if we're not quick.
Craig, is there a world that Wissa stays and he gets reintegrated? Like, does that happen? If he apologizes and then he scores loads of goals, because I feel like we have spoken about this before, but if he apologizes and maybe he posts a couple more pictures of Brentford on Instagram,
he has to appeal to the masses then, doesn't he, as well? If he comes in and he scores a hat-trick in his first game, all's going to be forgotten very quickly, isn't it? Football fans are fickle beings. Football fans are very fickle beings. If he comes in, scores a couple of goals in his first few games, everything will be forgotten. I don't even think that it'll be necessary that there'll be an apology. There'll be some kind of statement, or it will be mentioned briefly by Keith Andrews in a pre-match conference that they do, where Wissa is going to be involved in this one, and then that will be it, and we would just be expected to get on with it and just deal with it in the way that we should. I suppose the way we did with Ivan Toney. A few fans kicked up a fuss. We had plenty of conversations around him. Then he comes in to the squad and scores a few goals, and all of a sudden, all is forgiven and all is forgotten. So I do see a way in which it happens, because we know that he is capable enough to score goals in the Premier League. And if that's what pushes us up the table a little bit, yeah, fantastic. But like Dan touched on, I think it's George Mikotadze. Is that how you say his name as well? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I might have said it wrong. Yeah.
I'm not sure there's a ch in there, but I'm not sure there's a ch in there. But yeah, George Mikotadze, the Georgian striker, who was absolutely brilliant, I thought, in the Euros as well, with him and Kvaratskhelia, which is another difficult name to say. We're brilliant in the Euros, and that's a big signing for us, I think, as well. I know that we're going up against Valencia, and that's what the rumours are, going up against Valencia for his signature. But that's a big signing for us. That would be a big sort of marquee signing for us. A known player in Europe, doing well in the Serie A. He's had his loan spells at Metz and things like that as well. So if we could get a player like him in, I like Dan said, I don't think we'll get Maximilian Beer, because he don't want to leave Dortmund, and Dortmund don't particularly want to sell him. But I suppose if you offer the right money and offer the right wages, a player's going to go, isn't he? So this sort of stuff kind of maybe coincides with things behind the scenes with Wissa happening, because we've been linked with 2 strikers in 2 days. Like, what's happening behind the scenes with Wissa? Is that edging closer to happening? Because it seems strange that we're having these links now after a couple of games as well. So maybe things are happening behind the scenes that we don't know about, and Wissa's on his way out for sure anyway.
I was a big fan of the West Ham's rendition, or new rendition of Wissa's song. Dan, did you hear it?
I did hear it, yeah.
a superb effort from all involved.
I had to translate for the people around me as well. Like, what are they singing over there?
Yeah, superb work from everyone involved in the West Ham for that. Let's move on to Bournemouth. Obviously, it was last night. It was a different kind of performance. I think the most interesting thing for me, Dan, was the lineup, because we kind of spoken about whether we'd see a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, depending on how you spin it, from Keith Andrews. We'd seen it so many times before under Thomas Frank. But I did think it would come against one of the big teams. I wouldn't have been surprised to see us set up in a 5 against Forest on the first day. But these players have played that system before. So was it only a matter of time until we saw it, do you think?
I think we'll definitely see it against the bigger teams, and we've got lots of home games coming up soon against some of the bigger teams, so I expect we'll see it. I think we saw it last night based on the personnel that we had available. We wanted to give minutes to Pinnock, we wanted to give minutes to Aya, and then Keith Andrews clearly wanted to include someone like Van den Berg, and then Collins came on late on, just to make sure that we retained that defensive solidity. Obviously, Henry and Hickey, I think everyone knew they were probably going to start. So I think it made sense to go over back five based on the options we had. We don't have depth in that forward line. So maybe going with wing backs when you're rotating the side made sense on this occasion. I still think if we go to Bournemouth in the league, I still think we play a back four when we put our best 11 out. But again, it's just a sign that Keith Andrews learning. He knew that on the opening day when we were without the likes of Henderson, that we looked very weak defensively. So he did something about that last night. He changed the formation. He made sure Frank Onyeka was in there as your number 6, who I thought actually did really well. One of his best games in a Brentford shirt. And
Frank the Tank.
Yeah, I think
love it. Tumani regen.
But yeah, he was brilliant. Keith Andrews said before the game, Craig, as well, that we were going to take the cup competition seriously. That's not anything that Thomas Frank didn't say. But I think we were chatting before we started recording. It was so nice to see us make so many changes and still win comfortably. I mean, even in the games that we played in the cups with Thomas Frank, when we made that many changes, we were scraping past against lower league opposition. We were going out to Gillingham, which was a game that we won 1-0. It was at Sheffield Wednesday. We won on penalties. It was nice to see us make so many changes and still look convincing.
Yeah, went 1-0 down to Leyton Orient as well, didn't we, at home? Well, I just want to touch slightly on the formation again before I mention the comments that Keith Andrews made. I am not surprised that we've gone to a back five. When you look at the players that we've got in and around the squad, and that we're going to use cup competitions as rotations, squad rotations. When you've got a 4 that start of Coyote, Collins, Van den Berg, and KLP on the weekend, and then you look at the bench, especially the 2 league games that we've had, the benches that we've had have been so overly defensive because we don't have the squad depth going forwards, as Dan said. But when you've got those 4 that we've just mentioned, and then off the bench to come in, you've got Rico, Hickey, Pinnock, Aya, Megoma, obviously he's gone out on loan to Rangers. Roslev's now gone as well. You lose 2 players. And Benjamin Arthur, don't know what's going to happen with him if we're going to keep him in and around the squad. It doesn't surprise me that we went to a back 5 to be able to use the rotation. But the squad rotation that we have to use has to be defensive because all the players that we've got on the bench are bloody defenders. So it doesn't surprise me. But I just want to agree with Dan as well. I thought that was one of Frank Onyeka's best games. And I'm very happy that Keith Andrews recognised very, very early, especially after that Forest game, that we need a defensive midfielder in that squad. And I said at the start of the season, I don't care if Frank Onyeka is that player. And he's proven the doubters wrong, myself included, because I wasn't too sure on him. But like I say, Tumani regen, go out on loan, come back, and all of a sudden, Toure.
Let's talk about the goals, Dan. I think the timing. I think it looks like a simple goal. I think the finish isn't simple, to be fair, but I think the timing of his run after gambling on Aya winning the header, and it's something that Keith Andrews stressed in his post match as well. I think he said something like, "We know that he can score a lot of goals from second ball situations or in the second phase of play." But I just thought it was a really, really well taken goal, and he never really looked like he was going to miss. And it was first time finish. We've spoken about him a few times already. Fabio Carvalho obviously didn't play against Villa, but he was really good last night. And depending on the role that he plays this season, do you think it is going to be? I don't really know. We still don't really know where we're going to see him, where he fits into the team, because Ouattara started against Villa, and I thought we looked a lot better.
It's difficult because I think you do want that pace on the wings, and the likes of Shada and Ouattara running in behind. I think they're definitely our preferred options. And then if you look at him, I think he probably is best in the middle behind the striker, which is where Damsgaard plays. And Malambo might also have that same problem in a few weeks' time because Damsgaard's simply our best player, and you're not going to take him out of the team. So I have sympathy for him in that way. I think Carvalho is a very good bench option though for the Premier League. I think he has always been a bit of a goal threat, despite being quite inconsistent, despite being in and out of the team. I think that is something he can do. If you compare him to someone like Keane Lewis Potter in that front line, I would take Fabio every day of the week in one of the front three, because he does have that threat. He can make things happen in those area of the pitch. I mean, he should have scored just before he did score. He dragged one just wide, but it was quite unlucky because inches, if it was any, couple of inches to the left, keeper wasn't moving. That would have gone into the corner. And yeah, it was great anticipation. He was very quick to the ball. It was a firm finish. And that's what we know he can do. And there aren't that many players in our team at the moment who have a goal threat, given what we've lost and what we're yet to replace. And, we're a very young team. So I think people like him will need to contribute this season. I definitely think he'll get more minutes off the bench if someone like Ouattara is not playing well or needs a rest.
And then on around, we defended well throughout the game, Craig, but on around 60, I think it was, Kayode, Ouattara, Collins, and Thiago will come on. That's close to £100 million in substitutions there. Does Thomas Frank, we mentioned it at the top, but does Thomas Frank make those subs at that position in the game? We don't know. I feel like it is weird just comparing Keith Andrews to Thomas Frank all the time, but we are doing it.
I think that with the squad that we've got at the moment, we would have seen those substitutes because those are the only bloody players that we've got anyway to be able to bring on. But if it was Thomas Frank, they wouldn't have come on until like the 85th minute. They wouldn't have come on to the 85th minute, and then we would have probably conceded in the last few. But we looked solid. Evan Nielsen came on for Bournemouth as well. Semenyo came on for Bournemouth. David Brooks came on. These are attacking players that are, David Brooks, maybe not so much as compared to Evan Nielsen and Semenyo, that have got a good output in the Premier League. But I've completely ignored your question, Mike, actually, to be honest, haven't I? We were so defensively solid. But being able to bring on Michael Coyote and being able to bring on Nathan Collins and not losing our defensive structure like we did so many times when we made defensive changes last year. I mean, how many times did we concede 2 goals in quick succession last season? Like, so many times we did it. So many times we had the conversations. But to be thinking that we're bringing on 4 players that are close to £100 million, I'm going to be one of those players. I'm going to be one of those people, and I'm going to say it, man. It's unheard of. I'm gonna be those. We were in League 2 like 15 years ago. It's £100 million. It's crazy, man. It's crazy stuff.
I think Thomas Frank would have left some of those players at home and not even included them on the bench. And I think he would have probably put people like Konak and Donovan on, which is great. You want to see them, but I think that might have led to a similar performance that we've had in the Cup in previous years, where I don't think it really benefits those young players either being involved in a disjointed defeat.
But Konak and Donovan, again, weren't included in the match day squad for this one. So maybe Donovan's injured, because obviously we saw him involved. I'm sure we saw him involved with Forest.
I think
he was played in the B involved with Forest, but then he wasn't involved with Villa and he wasn't involved with this one.
I saw he's played in the B team.
Oh, is he? But yeah, obviously he got that promotion to the first team squad. That's what all the fuss was about in pre-season, and then we haven't seen him even involved. But we're in a situation. I thought that was a strong team, as much as rotation would allow us. It was still a strong team going into the game. But then when you look at the bench and you've got Thiago, Yarmo, Dango Ouattara, Nathan Collins, Coyote, KLP, Damsgaard as well, and Pert Harris, who does make an impact. He did make an impact in pre-season when he was come on, but he doesn't like the world on fire. We don't know what's happening with him either. He's just in and around the squad always, isn't he? I believe Keith Andrews when he says we're taking these competitions seriously, because the subs that Thomas Frank would have been subs that would have seen the game out. And I feel that the subs Keith Andrews made went out to go and win the game rather than not lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was confident with the changes he made, and I was very happy to see him actually put those players out there and let them do their job like Thiago did.
Yeah, well, thank you for the segue, first of all, Craig. But Thiago comes on, scores a goal, Dan, shows a bit of passion, kisses the badge. Changed your opinion on him yet?
I love him as a person. I've never disliked him as a person. I think he was a little bit better, I think, in this one. I mean, he came on with not too long left. I think he did what he needed to do, scored the goal. I don't think you can particularly criticise him for that performance. But I mean, going back to the Villa game, I do think he looked a bit sluggish still. I still think when he's got the ball at his feet, he doesn't release it quick enough. And I get sometimes, we need players around him for him to be able to do that. But I feel like most of the time, even when players are around him, he's not releasing it. He's not playing that ball quick enough. And, we speak about this every week, but someone of his size, he doesn't do his job in, physically, that his battles with defenders more often than not don't go his way. Whereas someone of his size and stature, surely he could use that a little bit more to get more out of it. I hope he improves. Like I don't want him to have a bad season.
You're talking about him like he hasn't got 3 goal contributions in 3 games.
Yeah,
I mean, he scores the penalty against Forest. He gets the assist for Dango Ouattara against Villa, and then he scores himself against Bournemouth. He doesn't look like a conventional big target man, does he? Like, let's not beat around the bush. He doesn't look like what we really expected him to be. But I do find that he finds himself in the right place at the right time. And his goal, by the way, Frank Onyeka assist.
Yeah.
Frank Onyeka assist, which is not the first time Frank Onyeka has got an assist because of a poor first touch. He tried to control that, or he tried to shoot. I'm not sure. But yeah, Thiago's got 3 goal contributions in 3 games. I mean, if he does carry on that form, and we're coming towards the end of the season, and we're saying, like, he scored 15 goals, but he's got 15 assists, or he scored 10 goals and got 10 assists, that, as a 20 goal contributions for him in the season, would be absolutely fantastic for him.
It would be brilliant, but I don't think we can say that he played well against Forest or Villa.
He scored and got an assist, but isn't that the sign of, like, maybe a good player? Yeah, we haven't quite seen it yet, but that's the sign of a good player, isn't it? Like Liverpool beating Newcastle, that's a sign of a good team. You don't necessarily play well, but you win. And then Thiago, you don't necessarily play well, but you're still involved in the goals. Like, yeah, right, he was pony against Forest. I will agree with you. Like, he spent majority of the time as a right back or a right-sided centre back, and it was painful to watch at times. But he scores. And then Villa, you put him in his position, his natural position. He did the defensive work against Villa as well. I mean, I know we conceded a lot of efforts on goal, but they never really threatened because he was part of that defensive unit as well. And he's very Ivan Toney-esque in his defensive work. Then, like, winning headers at corners and things like that and doing the dirty work that he needs to do. But he is having his output. It's just untidy and unconventional at the moment. So he looks,
I'd say sluggish.
A bit sluggish, a bit untidy, a bit sluggish. So it doesn't look great. But if he didn't score yesterday and he didn't get the assist on Saturday and he didn't score against Forest, I would completely agree with every point that you make, that he doesn't look fantastic. He looks sluggish. He looks slow. But he might be looking those things, but he's still got that output, which is good. For one, it's good for the team. It's good for his confidence. It'll only make him feel better. And it gets the fans on side as well. It gets most of the fans, except for you, Dan, on side. Do you know what I mean?
I like him. Just to be clear, I like him. I really want him to do well. I just think the jury is still out. The jury is very much still out for me. I think, he scores a penalty, fine. He wins a flick on unchallenged against Villa. Fine. He was unchallenged. I just want to see more consistent performances week in, week out, because that would show me more than just a few goal involvements that, he will be consistent throughout the season and he'll be good for us.
This reminds me of someone. I saw someone on Twitter and I replied to it. Someone criticized his penalty because he went down the middle, and I was like, he scored the penalty. Like, what do you mean? I think this is an interesting conversation though, because if we're talking about it, so we've had Ivan Toney, we've had Ollie Watkins, now we've got Igor Thiago. I would say he's much more similar to Ollie Watkins, because if you think about Ivan Toney, much better on the ball. You can't really imagine Thiago like dropping deep and then like firing a line splitting pass through to Brian Mbeumo or someone else down the right wing, because I don't think he has that technical ability. But if you're talking about someone who's going to press from the front, because I didn't think he was great against Villa, but I did think that he ran himself into the ground, which I know, you're not going to get any points from Dan for doing that. But yeah, I think he's a bit more similar to Ollie Watkins, and maybe we're seeing, I don't know. But this is also a Thomas Frank signing as well. Like Keith Andrews wouldn't have probably been involved in the signing of this. And I feel like if you asked Thomas Frank what striker he would ideally have in his team, it would be more to the build of Ollie Watkins. But we'll see. We'll see where he gets. I just think kissing the badge. I think he's got my heart already. I can say.
I think broadly you both agree with me based on what you're saying. We kind of are saying, well, it would be great if he did this.
Should we talk about some players? Obviously, really nice to see Aaron Hickey in the starting lineup. Really nice to see Ethan Pinnock in the starting lineup. We've kind of spoken about Frank Onyeka and that performance. Callum will be absolutely buzzing with that. Valdimarsson, I thought made some really good saves. Particularly given he's not looked massively convincing in the games that he's played for Brentford so far. But I thought the saves that he made, we'd expect them to make, but he made them really confidently. But I think the two ones, and on the subject of fullbacks, because someone asked us on Twitter, I put a tweet out asking for questions for the pod. Who do we want as fans? This is Gary asking on Twitter. Who do we want at left back, Rico Henry, Aaron Hickey, or Keane Lewis-Potter? And I think that's a really interesting conversation, because I didn't really expect KLP to play at left back against Villa. I think Aaron Hickey played well last night. Rico Henry again played really well last night. What do we think about
that? It's a really, really difficult one, isn't it? Because they're three fantastic players in their own right, very unique defenders. They bring something completely different. Each one of them does. We know what Rico Henry can do. He doesn't seem to have lost. I was worried about it pre-season, but he doesn't seem to have lost the pace, which is great for us and for him doing the defensive dirty work that he did. KLP, we know that he offers an offensive output more so than what Rico Henry and Keane Lewis, he is Keane as well, than Aaron Hickey do. Aaron Hickey, I haven't seen him for so long that you kind of forget what he brings, don't you? But again, he's a player that will get the ball and he will drive the team forwards, and he does the dirty work. I saw him take a knock yesterday and I was a bit worried because he got up limping. I was like, oh God, I hope that's nothing too serious. And then he carried on, which was good. But they all bring something unique to the team. Now, the concerning part is when you don't have KLP at left back, you run the risk of having him in the front line. And he's not very good at that at the moment. I'm in a situation where I would rather not play Rico Henry or Aaron Hickey at left back so that KLP stays out of the front line. That's where I'm at the moment. And that's because he's been molded and crafted into such a fantastic left back over the last year that I don't see him as a forward. When he played against Forest, I thought he was crap. I thought he was awful. And then against Villa, moving back to left back, I thought he was fantastic again. And also, credit to Keith Andrews for doing that. Because he saw that he was not fantastic against Forest, and he took the risk at putting him back in left back against the team that has more of an offensive output as well. Like we know what Villa are capable of. And it worked. It worked so well for us. So credit to him. But yeah, keep KLP at left back, man. If he keeps Rico and Aaron Hickey out of the team, good for him, man. It means he's doing a good job. Good for KLP if he's doing that. Good for him.
Dan?
I agree. Yeah, I think with Hickey, I think in terms of fitness, he's a little bit behind. Obviously, he didn't complete the 90 minutes. It was his first start for about 2 years. So, just to see him get through an hour and build up his fitness, I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I think he's got levels to go to get back. Obviously, Rico Henry's been back a little bit longer, and he does look back up to sharpness now. And I thought he was really, really good last night. But I think at the moment, it's Keane Lewis-Potter's to lose. I think he's just a little bit more rounded. I think Henry will get to a good position in the wide area, but might not have the same quality on his final delivery that Lewis-Potter might have. So I think for now, Lewis-Potter's a little bit more rounded and it's his place to lose, but it's great to be having this conversation that we've got so many options.
Let us know in the comments, because I think it's a really interesting conversation. Even Gary that sent the tweet had a few replies to it. So yeah, let us know in the comment section who do you think our starting left back should be against Sunderland. Anything else from Bournemouth that we want to touch on? Dan, you mentioned style of play in terms of what you want to see more going forward.
Oh, I think this is for both games, to be honest. So we could talk about both of them in one. I think we look like, and this is not, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we look more like the Brentford team that we saw maybe 2-3 years ago, in terms of going back to, a more basic style of play, a bit more long ball towards someone like Kevin Schade. We've given up a lot of possession, but ultimately we've looked really, really solid defensively. And I think Keith Andrews is focuses on, definitely after the Forest game, I think he's focusing on just building a solid base at first. But I suspect that going forward, the likes of this weekend against Sunderland, I would like to see us get on the ball a bit more. I would like to see us try and play a bit more football. And, we might do that. Keith Andrews has been very adaptable so far, so it wouldn't surprise me. But I do think, there might be occasions, if we're not quite on it defensively, where we are on the end of another really poor performance, if we are, giving up a lot of territory, giving up a lot of possession, and just aiming long a lot of the time. But, this is a style of play that worked for us in the first couple of years in the Premier League. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Our highest Premier League finish was when we were playing that way, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When we played finish ninth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to mention the red card, because Julian Araujo got sent off. There was obviously no VAR in this game, but what a horrendous challenge on Thiago that was, and he was very lucky. He is very lucky that there was no VAR, because that would have been overturned and given a straight red as serious foul play. That was horrible up above the shin pad, I thought.
Who do you want in the next round, Craig?
Cambridge away, please.
Cambridge
I've
away.
never been to Cambridge, so I would like to go there.
Dan?
Wrexham. Let's go to Wrexham. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I fancy Wrexham. That'd be quite fun.
Just somewhere I haven't been before. That would be ideal. Somewhere new to tick off. So Wrexham, Cambridge, something like even Bradford. I never got a chance to go there when we was.
Yeah, that's true.
Was in League One. So
have you heard that Bradford's new chant, "Being pecked by the chickens"? They've started singing that when they beat teams. God, my head would be on Mars if I heard that. Anyway, Villa, let's talk about that. Different kind of win. If you look at the stats that Dan sent over this morning, we had 24% of the ball, 9 shots to Villa's 17, 2 on target, 128 passes to Villa's 514. But what I think that is obviously is the scoreline. We created more XG. We had more big chances. Are those the wins that really stick out? I think I prefer those wins to maybe a 4 or 5-0, if I'm honest, Dan. What do you reckon?
Well, yeah, beating a team like Villa. I mean, this is a conversation we had last year as well. We didn't beat enough of the top teams. We were very good against the teams below us, but maybe not so good against the better teams. And we've gone back to that style of play that actually was more successful against the better teams, and it's working. I think the first half, definitely with a better side, went 1-0 up. I thought we should have gone 2-0 up. I don't buy that as a foul on Martinez from Collins. So, even Damsgaard, even early on, Damsgaard had another good chance where he went for a gap that almost wasn't there, dragged his shot wide a little bit. So I think we had, probably the 3 best chances in that first half and the 3 best chances in the whole game. I think second half was a little bit different. It was very ugly. It was very clear the ball long and Villa come straight back at us, but we defended so well. For all the ball that Villa had, for all of their 17 shots, they didn't do anything at all. And Ollie Watkins, who normally scores against us, was so quiet. You'd be forgiven for not knowing he was there. So defensively, absolutely brilliant. And, I was a little bit surprised after what we saw a week before. I started off open-minded, quite confident ahead of the Forest game. I think we all took a bit of a knock, but the fact that he adapted and changed a lot, just tactically, personnel-wise as well, we looked a completely different side, and I think you've got to credit him for doing that after just one game.
100. Let's talk about the changes. So Hendo was in from the start, Dams was in from the start, Schade in, Ouattara in, which was the surprising one for me. I didn't think he would be in the front line. I thought he'd be on the bench and he'd come on early. and then KLP pushed to left back. Like you just mentioned, Dan, Craig, credit where credit's due, because those were the changes that everyone wanted.
Yep.
And he made all of them, and we looked much, much better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yesterday's game is a reflection of the changes that he made on Saturday as well, because if we had played yesterday's game without Frank Onyeka or just a defensive midfielder, it would have been completely different again. It don't take a rocket scientist to look at that Forest performance and know that our defense was far too exposed for the majority of that game until Jordan Henderson came onto the pitch. We were far too exposed defensively. If that means you sacrifice an offensive player to bring in a defensive midfielder, do it. And it's exactly what he did with Jordan Henderson. And also, I so apologise to Jordan Henderson for any criticism I ever gave him. I am sorry from the bottom of my heart. He's unreal, unbelievable. He just knows the game. He reads the game. He's so passionate about the game as well. When you watch him winning challenges and trying to get the ball back, he does it with tenacity, and it's great to watch. And players like Frank Onyeka, players like Yarmo and Damsgaard and Jensen, those players that are only gonna take from his experience and learn from him. It's like when we had Christian Eriksen in. Look how good Jensen was then. Like these are players that are going to learn from him. So yeah, Hendo, if you happen to be listening, mate, I'm sorry. Please never leave us. But yeah, Damsgaard was a huge miss against Forest, but couldn't be helped. Obviously, family comes first, and congratulations to him again. But he changes it completely. Like Dan said, he had that chance where he just finds space out of nothing, and pulls his effort wide. So unlucky again for not having another goal, because there's no way VAR.
What a strike that was, by the way.
Yeah, brilliant.
Unreal
Absolutely
technique.
Brilliant. But how VAR can... Well, the referee originally gave the foul, didn't he? Yeah, I'm not sure how... Martinez goes on the floor, throws his arms around. He gets fouled 99% of the time anyway. But how VAR can look at that and not see the fact that he just hasn't been strong enough. Because Nathan Collins couldn't do anything. He was just in amongst the crowd. It could have been a Villa player. And if it's a Villa player there and he's not strong enough, it's not a foul. So I don't get how that works. But
it happened in the United game as well. Bayern in the first week when they played Arsenal. It happened at Fulham at Craven Cottage as well. It's the same things, not giving us fouls. I don't get it.
No. But thankfully, it didn't mean anything. It would have been a completely different conversation if we'd have drawn that game 1-1 and we've been robbed of 2 points from VAR. But yeah, Ouattara, absolutely brilliant. Finds the space between the defenders, and Thiago wins a free header and flicks it on for him. I do think we should.
It was a free header.
I do think that to nitpick just a little bit, I do think Ouattara should have scored the first effort, but sometimes you need a little bit of luck, and it bounces straight back to him, and he puts it in, and we win the game 1-0. But we were so defensively solid for all of their possession, for all of their efforts. But again, all of Bournemouth's possession and all of their efforts, bar Aya clearing it off the line last night. I don't think we've looked like conceding in 180 minutes of football so far in these last 2 games, and we haven't conceded, and it's been brilliant.
You've just rattled through basically the rest of the running order, Craig, with that answer, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. That kind of apology that you just issued to Jordan Henderson that's what I want to see from Dan when Thiago wins the Golden Boot this season.
When he deserves it, he'll get one.
All of our outfield starting 11, apart from Henderson, were 25 or younger against Villa, which is promising. As Dan said in the WhatsApp chat, I've literally just copy and pasted your message. Was our youngest starting 11 to win in the Premier League. Dan, why do you like that so much?
Well, you can just think and imagine how good they'll be in a few years. Some of these players, that I think the likes of Coyote, I can't believe he's only like 22, isn't he, or something like that. That's amazing. And, I think he could already probably play at a higher level. I think, in a few years' time, you're looking at him, you're looking at Damsgaard, you're probably looking at Collins. or who could step up. And then, it wouldn't surprise me if any of the other 10, I'm not including Jordan Henderson, I think he's probably had the peak of his career, but it wouldn't surprise me if any of the other 10, continue to step up. And in a few years' time, bigger clubs are looking at them. And, if they all grow together as a team over the next couple of years, then, we could grow. And I don't think I quite realised, obviously, we lost Norgard, one of the older players. We lost Flecken, again, one of the older players. Even Brian, if you put him in this team, he's probably the second oldest player. So I don't think I quite realised how young a group that we have in our first 11 now. And it's just really exciting looking forward. Them all getting regular minutes together, having someone like Henderson there will help them all greatly, because you do need that little bit of experience. And Henderson's got that. And I think another credit to the rest of the side is you don't look at them all and think they're very young, inexperienced players, because they're not. Someone like Nathan Collins has been around for years, yet he's only still 24 or 25. And, as a team, they look so comfortable. That was a really disciplined, mature performance from a side with an average age of, 24 and a bit. And that average age is brought up by 35-year-old Jordan Henderson, who's at least 9 years older than everyone else in that squad. So, yeah, it's just really exciting, I think, for the future.
Just on... you mentioned Christian Norgard there. Has he been in an Arsenal squad yet? Can he get in, or is he injured?
Not even on the bench, but now Odegaard and Saka are injured. I hope he's got a chance.
Is he? So he wasn't even getting into the squad. He's not injured or anything.
My mate who supports Arsenal said that he didn't think he was injured, but I have seen reports that he might be injured.
Yeah,
I thought he would be injured.
Reports that he's injured. Yeah.
That's surprising. You mentioned Coyote there, Dan. I've just got in the running order Michael Coyote first of his name, because just that picture, and everyone would have seen that picture, but the picture of him, I think it's Coyote, Ouattara, and I think, is it Collins behind him as well, after celebrating that block from Morgan Rogers. Or it might be Henderson. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it's Henderson. He is it's like he's getting better every single game. I don't know what, I've never seen a player like him before. I don't think I can compare him to any previous Brentford player. That's a good one for the comments, but he doesn't remind me of anyone. He's quite unique in the way that he moves, in the way that he carries the ball, in his 1v1 defending. I just think, again, just a massive performance from him. He's becoming my favourite Brentford player somehow. I think even, he's not been here that long, but he's just everywhere, and he's just so great to watch. Anyone else that stood out? We've mentioned Collins. I think there was an important game for him to kind of get back on track, because I feel like against Forest he was a bit off it, as was Sepp as well. Yarmo, I think, looked a lot more comfortable. But I think for me the main one was Henderson. Craig, I just think what you were saying at the top just made everyone look so much more sure around him. And I think he made a real difference in the game. Anyone else that caught the eye against Villa?
It was just an all-round good performance. Like, everybody, after we had this conversation so many times last season, where when we've played poorly, the next game we're not necessarily bothered about the result. It's about the performance.
Yeah.
And we had an immediate bounce back from Forest, which was really, really good to see. So, credit where credit's due to Keith Andrews. He's proving people wrong at the moment. I know it's still early doors, but he's proving people wrong, and long may that continue. KLP brilliant back at left back. Thiago scoring, assisting, 3 contributions in 3 games. Let's hope that continues. It was all round. The last 2 games have been all round good performances and defensively solid. 2 clean sheets. 2 games.
2 wins in a row, 2 clean sheets. Wins against Bournemouth and Villa despite not having too much of the ball. So I saw someone say again on Twitter that if Thomas Frank was in charge of the Villa game, we'd probably concede towards the end. Probably chuck on Ben Mee at about 80 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. Well, he did go to the back 5. Even
he brought Ayer on, didn't he?
5, yeah. But it just worked. Yeah.
Just I've got something on Thomas Frank here at the bottom. I don't know if people would be interested to listen, but I think it's interesting anyway. With just how good Spurs look. Were we surprised with that? I feel like I'm watching it as a Brentford fan, and I'm thinking I always wondered whether if he had better players, that he would be the manager that we all thought he is. And from the early signs at Tottenham, despite their woes in the transfer market, I mean, the performance against Man City, I don't know if you boys watched it, but it was pretty flawless. Are we surprised with the start that he's made to life at Tottenham?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I think, he's a very adaptable coach as well. I thought he'd probably play about 5 against City actually, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch that game in detail because I was traveling to our game. But I think just in general, I mean, you can see a bit of Brentford in them.
You can.
With slightly better players, a big focus on set pieces, being really adaptable. When they played Burnley, that was a bit more, playing football, getting forward, trying to control the game. And I think that will serve them really well because he's really good at it and he's got, more players now who can come in and make an impact in different types of games. And if you look at Tottenham's fixture list, they've got a really good run of fixtures coming now. They've got Man City out of the way. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're, first or second after 7-8 games and everyone's getting excited. But I don't think I'm not saying they'll win the league, but I think that they will get Champions League football with Thomas Frank. And then I'd be really pleased for him if he does that.
Craig, what do you reckon? It annoys me that he's doing so well on the pitch, but they're still just useless in the transfer market. Like the whole Eze thing. I think they've just lost another player they were linked to, and he's ended up going to Arsenal again, maybe. But it just seems like great football manager, terrible infrastructure around him, which is exactly what we all said when we said this is the risk in terms of him going to Spurs, is that he'll be really good, but the people above him won't be.
He, as far as I'm concerned, Thomas Frank can win 36 games. Yeah, as long as he loses the 2 to us, I don't really care what he does. But I do think that Dan's right. I do think that they'll get Champions League football again. Obviously, they've got it this year because they won the Europa League, and it'll be interesting to see how he does. Now, Thomas Frank is a very well-versed Premier League manager. We know that he knew the game very well by the time it come to his tenure at Brentford. He knew the Premier League. I mean, he had so many clubs' number. Bournemouth, so many of their fans would say Thomas Frank had our number. And then you look at Manchester City as well. And again, we got a few very good results against Man City over the 4 seasons that he was with us. So to see a team that is a bit of a bogey team for Man City and Spurs anyway, then get a manager who seems to know Man City like the back of his hand, like Thomas Frank does. You put them two together. For Man City, it's a recipe for disaster. For Spurs, it was success as it played out. But there's potential there. You look at that club, and if you forget about Daniel Levy and the board, from Thomas Frank down, it looks like a great club. But Thomas Frank up, you're still not sold on them as a whole.
Nothing would give me more pleasure than going to their place and getting a gritty 1-0 win. Oh my God, inject it into my veins. That would be my favorite game of the season, I think. Just imagine the chance you should have stayed at a big club. Oh God.
So Tottenham have 42 shots, we have 1.
And we win 1-0. Absolutely. Oh my God. No, and it's an own goal. It's an own goal. We have 0 shots on target. We win by an own goal. It'd be brilliant.
Let's chat about Sunderland then. First of all, last game at the Stadium and Light, give me the score and the goal scorers.
I've got this one, Dan. I've got this one in the bag already. If you want,
I was there, so yeah. I don't remember the score. Well, I know we won. It was
2-0. Malpe scored a back heel, and Halo Makopcho scored the other one.
Bang
and it was half empty.
And he did a weird celebration where he ran to the corner and starts doing it.
That was a great away day. That was the last time we went there, and we got a big game there on Saturday. They were brought back down to earth to an extent in the last game against Burnley. It's weird now to see all 3 promoted clubs with a win under their belt. How are we feeling to either of you? Dan, I'll come to you because I think you want to. Obviously, you mentioned that you want to see a bit of Brentford on the ball a lot more. I feel like this is a big game because I feel like even I made a video. I said sort of this is going to be the proper indication of where we are when we come up against the Sunderland team that have the wind behind their sails. They got that big win against West Ham, but they've made a lot of signings. So how are you feeling ahead of it?
Yeah, well, I think the Premier League in general after 2 games looks really, really competitive. Only 2 teams have won both games. Only 2 teams have lost both games. It's good signs if that continues going forward in terms of the competitiveness this year. I think first 10, 15 minutes, we've got to settle the crowd down. They're still in the early stages in the Premier League. They know how big their home games are for them. They, beat West Ham with relative ease. How good West Ham are is to be debated because they don't seem very good at all. I think we need to see a different side to us again. And I think we might do. I think what we've seen from Keith Andrews so far is that he can be adaptable. We want to see the likes of Damsgaard get on the ball. We want to see us try and control the game. We want to see Sharda and Ouattara pin their fullbacks back. And, if we can get players in and around closer to Thiago, which, this should be the game where we can hopefully do that, then, I might even say that he might have a better game ahead of him. I just think we need to see a different side to us, because I think this is the sort of game where we're probably expected to go there and control things a bit more. And then if we go back a few years when we last played a similar style to what we've been playing the last couple of games, these are probably the games we actually struggled with back then. So, we've got the players. We know we can do it. I have no doubt a midfield three of Henderson, Yarmoliuk and Damsgaard. I don't see why they can't, try and dominate the midfield. And we've got some brilliant players. So, I think if we approach it with that attitude and try and be a bit braver and front-footed in this one, then I don't see why we can't get a result. But we've got to settle them down straight, first of all.
A homecoming for Jordan Henderson as well, Craig. I would have loved to know what Sunderland fans thought of that, when I think there was quite a lot of clamour for him to go back to Sunderland. I think he was at the playoff final, and then he ends up signing for Brentford. I imagine the phrase "fucking Brentford" was used quite a lot in the Northeast when that signing was made.
He wants to sign for a big club. It's going to be one of those emotional days for Jordan Henderson as well. As you said, it's a bit of a homecoming for him, seeing Sunderland back in the Premier League. It must be a good feeling for him as well. And you look at other players like Jordan Pickford, who spent time at Sunderland. I'm sure he spent time at Sunderland.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And hopefully we can see him go there and flourish in a Brentford shirt, a different kind of red and white. So yeah, I mean, I can't add any more to what Dan's already said, but do you think that the promoted teams stay up this year? Because when I've looked at the other teams that have been playing, I mean, I watched the Chelsea West Ham game, and my God, West Ham were bad.
Yeah,
and I watched.
Go on.
Sorry. No, go on.
From the first, I still think you need 10 games to kind of call this stuff. However, if there was one team that I've watched since, West Ham do look pretty dire. They do look pretty dire. But I mean, did you watch Leeds last night in the cup? Bloody hell, they were shocking. They were so Calvert-Lewin as well. Honestly, I don't know. I think it would be obviously. I think everyone wants one of the newly promoted teams to stay up, but I don't know who's going to be.
I think Sunderland have done the best business. I think Granit Xhaka, very experienced. He'll have the same sort of influence on them as Henderson has on us. I think someone like a Dingra from Brighton. I thought even at Brighton he looked pretty good at times. I think instead of buying lots and lots of players, I think they've invested actually really well and probably the best of the three. But then you could probably argue that they probably had the weakest squad of the three to begin with before they made that investment. So I certainly think they've got good players. And, if you think of Stadium of Light and Ellen Road as well, I think they're also difficult places to go for away sides, which you might not get from, Southampton away and in Ipswich away like we had last season. So I do want someone like Sunderland to do well, just not this weekend.
Well, we'll have more on Sunderland tomorrow with the podcast, with the What the Fuck Sunderland podcast, which is a great name for a pod. That'll be out tomorrow. We'll be back after the Sunderland game with a full-time show. Remember to drop your comments down below with your thoughts ahead of the game. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Follow us on the socials at the Ealing Road on Twitter, at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. Gents, that was a really fun one. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Saturday.
Up the bees.